Welcome to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Para Cave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Para Cave podcast. Troy Warner here, and look, the second trial in the pre-season challenge has been run and done. It was played on Friday night at Leichhardt Oval between the West Tigers and the Parramatta Eels, with the Tigers running out victors 30 points to 18. It was a 5-3 victory to the Tigers. It was 18-12 at half-time, and I just thought I'd jump on and give a little bit of my thoughts about the game anyway. Now, it was played in pretty, I guess you could say, slippery conditions. It was raining here and there during the game and before the game as well. But look, it's disappointing to lose any game that you play in NRL level, but it is only a trial, and I think that's what people need to realise, that it is just a trial. And look, as I said, you obviously want to go out and win every single game. Now, look, obviously the showing last week against Newcastle, 44 points to 18 was a great victory, and there were some great signs from some great players. This week there was new players in that side, most notably Jermaine Hopgood, Will Penasini, Zach Lomax, Josh Adokar also played some minutes as well. Jack Williams was another one as well that we hadn't seen this year. So look, there was some fair new players. I think it was looking like it was a pretty full-strength side. Look, I think there will be some changes here and there for round one against Melbourne in a couple of weeks' time now. Only 13 days away. Cannot wait for that one. Personally, I think that the backline that ran out on Friday night will be the backline for the Parramatta Eels in round one. I think Isaiah Iongi, who probably had scored a great try in this game, and he scored a great try off a scrum and just beat a couple of defenders. He absolutely carved the Tigers up to score the first try of the game, actually. So I think he beat Adam Dewey, who was playing halfback for the Tigers. He got through the Brent Naden tackle and he scores, and that was after 15 minutes. So I think he has pretty much sewn up that fullback spot. One try assist as well. I think that was another pass out to Sean Russell after some pretty slick dummy half play from Riley Smith, who also had a great game as well. And look, personally, I think without putting a lot of pressure on young Riley, I think he may have just done enough to get a 14 spot for round one. I'll be doing a predicted team lineup very soon this week, and I'll be doing a podcast about it obviously as well, but I think he may be a smoky to get a 14 spot on the bench. I really like his delivery from dummy half. He made a short little break as well throughout the game. Pretty much as soon as he came on, it was for about 20 metres or so. And I really like the look of him. And as I said, I don't want to put too much pressure on him, and I think a lot of fans are putting a lot of pressure on him because of the way that he plays and what fans like of seeing him. But I think he may have done enough to get that 14 spot as the backup hooker to Brendan Hands, who I think will get the starting hooker spot as well. Look, the defence of the Parramatta Eels, it looked pretty promising early on. I think the Tigers had 5 set restarts in 13 minutes, and they had 20 tackles in the Eels half, but the Tigers couldn't score. So early on, defence was looking good. And I thought that something that we haven't seen in a while. No doubt in the last couple of years the Tigers would have scored a try in that period, having that many tackles in the Eels half, but it wasn't to be. Parramatta, as I said, scored the first try, and the Tigers, they scored a try off a kick, and there was on the back of a Adam Dewey 40-20. Adam Dewey, he had a pretty good game at halfback there, and new recruit Jack Bird scored that try. So, look, it wasn't through a lack of defence that they scored their first try, but I do think that it was a pretty good effort in that, especially in that first 20 minutes of defence. Sort of dropped off a little bit, unfortunately, and obviously something to work on for the before the first game in round 1 against Melbourne. I guess you could say probably one of the things that the coach doesn't like, and any fans don't like as well, was the try right before halftime. The Tigers scored the try and led the game, and there was a kick from the sideline, and very interesting, it was pointed out on the Fox commentary that it was a bit of commentary from Josh Addo-Carr. As we all know, he is a little bit of a larrikin on the sidelines, I guess, and in training and the like. He's doing the old, come on, brah, from the sideline, hurry up, kick the ball, trying to put Adam Dewey off, but he didn't end up putting him off because they obviously won the game. Or he kicked that from the sideline, I should say. So there was a little bit of a bit of banter between each other there, and a bit of a smile on the face of both Addo-Carr and also Adam Dewey as well. But look, a lot of people are questioning Zach Lomax and whether he should go back to the wing or not. Had a quiet game. From his standards, look, it was his first hit out for the season. Look, I'm not taking too much out of that. I think we will see him line up in the centre position like we did in the trial, only 5 runs for 38 metres. Did kick some goals as well. 2 goals as well. So, only played the first half, I think it was. So, look, I wouldn't see too much out of that. Will Penasini, most run metres throughout the game, 130 from an Eels perspective. Most line breaks was Isaiah Iongi with 1, and that was the one that led to his try. Most tackles, and we probably expect that, I guess, from him week to week, because that's what he does. He is a defensive machine. Is Jermaine Hopgood, 33 tackles. Now, for those playing fantasy, Jack Williams, 58 points in there. And look, he had a pretty good game, I thought. Scored a try. Probably would want to have had a better game. But 8 runs for 80 metres. It's not too bad there. And in terms of tackles, 32 tackles made, only 3 missed. So a pretty fair effort from Jack, and that's probably something that we will expect from him this year, and probably he will expect from himself, I guess you could say, throughout the year, because he is a hard trainer, a hard worker, and he will want to be the best for the Eels that he could possibly be. So, look, disappointing, I guess, in the forward pack. As I mentioned, disappointing to lose any game that you play. But it is only a trial game. I mean, Kelma Tuilagi, he probably didn't have the game that he wanted to play, especially after that game against Newcastle the week before. Ryan Madison got a little bit of time. Matt Dury got some time as well, which was good to see out in the field there. 11 runs, 115 metres, so he was busy. Charlie Geimer as well, I think, may have got himself into a round 1 spot somewhere. Joey Lussick was pretty quiet. Wiramu Greg, I thought was, I guess, I don't think he will get a starting spot or a bench spot for round number 1. But only time will tell with that one. Bryce Cartwright, who I think may not even get a spot in round 1 either. I think he probably would have liked to have had a better game after that game in Newcastle as well. But as I said, one of the stars I thought was Riley Smith. 2 runs for 28 metres and 31 tackles. So he certainly knows what he is doing tackling-wise, that is for sure. And wearing the headgear and the passing game that he has from dummy half, I just think sort of reminds me a little bit of Reid Marnie when he was at Parramatta, minus the niggle that he has now got at the Canterbury Bulldogs. So as I mentioned before, I think he will get a bench spot for Parramatta. Joash Papali'i, he had a great game against Newcastle. Obviously had a lot more minutes, but I do think that Isaiah Iongi will get that fullback spot. Maybe Joash might get that 14 spot. He may even get that wing spot as well for Parramatta, as he can roam around that fullback wing as well. So he had a little bit of an impact, I guess you could say, against Newcastle last week. Not so much, I didn't think, this week. His name certainly wasn't mentioned that much, but I think he's still definitely in the mix to play against Melbourne. Where that will be, I don't know. Ronald Volkman, who had a great game against Newcastle the week before, had a few try assists. Again, probably had a game that he will want to forget. Missed 4 tackles, kicked 1 goal. Didn't have the try assists, I don't think, from what he did last week. Last week against Newcastle, he just looked like he had the ball on a string. His passes were making the mark. And this week, it just didn't happen for him. So, look, as I said, it is a trial game. That is what they are there for. And look, the Tigers playing at Leichhardt Oval, I guess you could say, really pumped up in front of their home crowd, playing there at their spiritual home. They obviously wanted to win after losing the week before. And look, I guess you could also say maybe it was a little bit of smoke and mirrors from Parramatta as well, being that Parramatta play the Tigers in round 2 of the competition at CommBank Stadium as well, not giving too much away. And considering too that Mitchell Moses, Junior Paulo have got to come back into this side, they didn't play on Friday night. So they will make their way back into this side. Also Dylan Brown as well. He will make his way back into this side as the starting 5/8, and Joe Ofahengawi as well didn't play on Friday night either. So look, a few players to come back into this side. That's not to say congratulations to the Tigers for winning the game as well. They've obviously got players to come back into their side as well. But look, they got the advantage, I guess, throughout the night. They had more possession of the ball, about 6 more minutes than Parramatta. Their completion rate was a lot better, 20% better than Parramatta's at 82%. The Eels at 62%, having 6 more sets. Their kicking was a lot better as well, 2 forced dropouts, and defence, even though they missed more tackles, they missed less tackles than Parramatta as well, 41 to 23. So, and they did give away more penalties than Parramatta, but there were more ruck infringements by Parramatta, so the Tigers did get those set restarts a lot more than Parramatta. So, look, they just played well, and Parramatta, look, they'll go back to the drawing board, to the training paddock for round number 1, which will be, as I said, in 13 days against the Melbourne Storm down there at Amy Park. The Melbourne Storm having a loss against the Cowboys yesterday in the pre-season challenge. Cameron Munster played. They've still got Jerome Hughes to come back. Nelson Asafa-Solomona is still suspended, so he won't be playing, and Ryan Pappenhausen won't be playing due to injury as well. So, look, they've got a few troops out, but they've got a few big guns back in, so that will be a massive clash down there in Melbourne. But, look, to wrap up, I think it probably is not all doom and gloom for Parramatta. As I said, I would have loved to have seen them put a score on or just win the game against the Tigers and remain undefeated, as you could say, throughout the 2025, but it wasn't to be. And I think going into the game, Parramatta fans expected to win because of the way that they played against Newcastle the week before. But look, it just wasn't to be. First time they wore their home strip this year. Last week they wore their away strip. So the next time we'll see them, they'll be in their away strip as well. So, look, I think promising signs for Parramatta to come, and it's not all doom and gloom. So back to the drawing board, back to the training paddock in preparation for round number 1, which will be on Sunday, the 9th of March at 4:05 p.m. at Amy Park against the Melbourne Storm. Cannot wait for that one. Thank you very much for listening to that one. Let me know what your thoughts about the game were and who your star performers were. I did get a little bit of a fan feedback from some of you listeners about the game who did say that Isaiah Iongi was the player of the game, which is fair assessment of that. But there were a few comments on the Facebook page about the game, and 3/4 said Iongi. So he was, I guess, your player of the match from a fan's perspective for that one. Thank you very much for listening. Plenty of content coming your way this week on the podcast. The tipping podcast will be back later this week with my daughter Ella. She is really looking forward to doing the tipping podcast again this year and the tipping competition, which I may remind you guys that it is still open and ready to join the tipping competition. Proudly brought to you by Assure Strata Reports and also Buddy Old Man Masters Boxer. So if you are only on Facebook, then follow Buddy Old Man Masters Boxer on Facebook. If you're on Instagram, follow Assure Strata Reports. And if you're on both, then follow the Paracave podcast as well. So there was a post I did up yesterday with the link on there. So feel free to join. There's still 6 days to join, so get in early, and there is a total prize pool of $900 up for grabs for the tipping competition, so you will want to get amongst that one for sure. $425 I think for first place, and I think $275 for second place. Also, $175 for third place, and I guess you could say a participation prize, I guess, $25 for fourth place. So the link is on the Instagram page, also on the Facebook page as well. So keep your eyes open for that, and please join, have a bit of fun, take on myself, see if you know more rugby league than me, more about rugby league than me, and see if you can out-tip me. But that will be back this week. There'll also be another interview based podcast come out this week as well, and so any other breaking news that I can think of as well, that it will come out through the time. So stay tuned for that one. Thank you very much for listening, and the Paracave podcast by the fan for the fans. Go Para!
episode of the Para Cave podcast. See you next time.